Tonight I'm going to discuss factoring and relating that back to the distributive property we've been working on. So here's the objective. I can factor algebraic expressions with rational coefficients. And what you need to know is factoring is undoing the distributive property. Just like the opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of division is multiplication. What's the opposite of distributing? Factoring. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So if you look here, we've been working on distributive property. So if I took this answer and I distributed a 2 through, 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times y is 2y. So that would be the expression after distributing. What we want to do is we want to take that expression and put it in factored form. So instead of distributing through, you have to factor out. So here, if you look and you say, what's in common to both terms? What factor do they have in common? Oh, they have a factor of 2 in common. I can factor out that 2. It's like dividing away that 2. If I divide the 2 from the x, I'm left with x. If I divide the 2 from the y, I'm left with y. So you're factoring out that 2. Here's another example. If you have 5e plus 15, that would be the original expression. The factored form would be 5 times the quantity e plus 3. Well, first of all, you can check this answer by distributing back through. So this would be the final answer in factored form. We can check that answer by distributing back through. That would be 5e. That would be 5 times e plus then 5 times 3. So that would be 5e plus 15. That's if we were going to distribute. Now we have to go backwards. We start with this 5e plus 15, and we say, what can I pull out front? Well, it might be hard at first on this one to see what to pull out front, but if you know you have 5e plus, how can we rewrite 15 in terms of its factors? Oh, 15 is the same as 5 times 3. Then you're going to be able to see what can I pull out of each of those terms and write on the front of my set of parentheses, oh, 5 is in common to both, so I can pull that right out front. So that's what factoring is. It's just undoing that distributive property. Let's take a look at how New York State presents it. So this is from the New York State mods, and this would be the factored form. Over here, you'd have the distributed form. The form after we distribute. So here, these we've been working on. So A, B, C, and D, I'm hopeful I can run through very quickly. We've been working on here. So 2 times x is 2x plus 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times x plus 2 times 5. So you can write it in distributed form as 2x plus 10, or in factored form, what do those have in common? They have the 2 in common. 2 can get pulled out front. On the inside of parentheses, you'd be left with your x plus 5. Let's distribute this next one. 3 times x is 3x plus 3 times 4 is 12. So that's the distributed form. And we know what we really did was 3 times x plus 3 times 4. So if they gave you this and asked you to go backwards to factored form, you would need to pull a common factor of 3 out front and then see you were left with x plus 4 on the inside of parentheses. All right, next one, distributing the 6 through. 6 times x is 6x plus 6 times 1 is 6. Again, 6 times x is 6x plus 6 times 1 is 6. Common factor of 6. They pull out front for factored form, and then they're left with x plus 1 within the parentheses. One more where we're going to distribute. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 3 is 21. Don't lose that minus. So 7x minus 21 would be your distributed form. And to get to that, you did 7 times x minus 7 times 3. 7 times x minus 7 times 3. You can see that common factor of 7, that's what gets pulled out front. So now if I give you the distributed form and ask you to go backwards, all right, so you look at this form that you're given. The state test might ask you to factor it, undo that distributive property. In order to do that, you say, okay, 5x is the same as 5 times x plus 30 is the same as 5 times 6. Then hopefully you can see you have that common factor of 5 that would get written in front of the parentheses. What would you be left within? X plus 6. Okay, the common factor gets written out in front. What's left inside is that x plus 6. If I distribute it back through, 5 times x is 5x, 5 times 6 is 30. So these are equivalent. Maybe we should actually start putting some equal signs here. Wouldn't that be a nice plan? We're just writing expressions in two different forms. Let's go ahead and factor this one. Now we're going to go backwards. We're going to undo the distributive property. So we have 8x, so that's 8 times x plus, what factors could I write here? Oh, 8 times 1 is 8. Then I can see, what do they really have in common? They have a factor of 8 in common that would get pulled out in front of that set of parentheses. Then you'd say, what do I have left? Oh, I have x plus 1 left once I pull out that factor of 8. So that's the factored form of 8x plus 8. Let's do a couple more. 3 times x minus 12. 3 times x, then minus, how could I break 12 down into its factors? Oh, 3 times 4. That's a set of factors for 12. 3 in common. And that's how we break these down. We look at them and we say, okay, what do we know they need to have in common? Oh, a factor of 3 comes out front. What am I left with? X minus 4. X minus 4. Can you check that you're correct by distributing back through? 3 times x is 3x. 3 times minus 4 is your minus 12. Let's factor the next one. So 15x and 20. All right, so here I see 15 is 5 times 3 times x plus 20 is 5 times 4. So then what can I pull out front? Oh, they have a 5 in common. I can pull a 5 out in front of the parentheses. What am I left with? 3x plus 4. So that's how we go about going between distributed and factored form. Factoring is just undoing your distributive property. It's just the opposite of our distributive property. Let's try some more. Rewrite the expressions as products of two factors. If you're getting comfortable with this, go ahead and pause the video, try it out, and then come back and just check against me. All right. If you're not comfortable, you just keep following along. So right here, I'm going to guess 8 is the common factor. So I'm going to rewrite 72 as 8 times 9 times t plus, how can I break down 8? 8 is the same as 8 times 1. What factors do they have in common? Well, they have a common factor of 8. What am I left with within parentheses? 9t plus 1. How can I check that I did a nice job? I could always distribute back through. 8 times 9t is 72t plus 8 times 1 is 8. All right, let's try the next one. 36 and 72, lots of factors they have in common, but I'm going to tell you 36 goes into 72. 36 times 2 will give me 72. 6 times 2 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 is 7. So this is 36 times z plus 36 times 2. I just break these each down and find what factor I have in common. I have a 36 in common. And what am I left within? Z plus 2. Once you pull that 36 out in front, you're left with z plus 2. You can check it using the distributive property. All right, let's take a look at how New York State asked it a few different times. Here's one example how New York State asked it in 2015. This is one of the release state test questions. It says, which expression represents a factorization of 32m plus 56m times p? So we have 32m plus 56MP. And what we need to do is we need to figure out what factors can come out front. Well, as I look at this, I see there's an 8 in common to each. So I'm going to rewrite 32 as 8 times 4 times M, plus 56 is 8 times 7. 8 times 7 times M times P. Then I look, what can be pulled out front? What's common to both? Oh, there's an 8 common to both and an M common to both. See how you have a matching 8 and a matching M to both parts. So to undo this distributive property, 8M goes out in front of our set of parentheses. Then I say, what do I have left within? Well, in this first slot, I have a 4 left. I have my plus sign left. In the second slot, I have my 7 left and my P left. So 4 plus 7P. Okay? So hopefully you can see they can even have some letters in common when we're talking about linear expressions. So you can pull out the 8M from both. So where is that one? Okay, it's right there. It's letter D. And if you distribute back through, you'll get back to here. Okay, hopefully that helps. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's try one more. This is just another way New York State asked this question back in 2014. This is one of the released questions. Which expression is equivalent to 4.8 plus 2.2W plus 1.4W plus 2.4? Okay, to do this, first of all, I look at my answers. I say, okay, eventually I need to get this in factored form. But before I can do that, I'm going to need to combine like terms. So I'm going to combine my constants, my 4.8 and my 2.4. Signs are the same because you always look at the sign in front. If no sign appears, it's positive. Signs are the same. Find the sum, keep the sign. So just off to the side, I'm going to go ahead and find that sum. 8 and 4 is 12. 4 and 1 is 5. And 2 more is 7. 7.2. 7.2. Then here, when I go to combine my W's, signs are different. I'll find the difference, keep what I have more of. So off to the side, I'll do 2.2 minus 1.4. So that's 12 minus 4 is 8. 1 minus 1, that's 0. I have more positives. 2.2 is larger than 1.4, so it's positive 0.8. Don't lose that W. We've been working on that. All right, so at this point I look and I know I'm either going to try to divide out by 0.4. However, hopefully you see with a 6 and a 2, they still have a factor of 2 in common, so that's definitely not in simplest form. So it's going to be one of these three answers. So I'm going to try to break this down using 0.8 as my factor. I'm going to hope for it. So this is 0.8 times W. Now I'm going to try to see how to break down 7.2 with 0.8. And if I look at this answer, I already see that I'm hoping it's 0.8 times 9. Let's just check off to the side that 0.8 times 9 is 72. I used my answer to kind of help me come up with what common factor to pull out. All right, let's take a quick look at 9 times 0.8. 0.8 times 9. 8 times 9 is 72. Move that decimal point over one place. Yay! All right, so now, and I kind of like that it was multiple choice. It gave me a fairly straightforward way how to factor out. I can see 0.8 is common to both. So that goes on the outside of my set of parentheses. What do I have left within? 9 plus W. It's definitely letter B. Awesome sauce. Letter A will get you back to this expression here, but it's not factored out in simplest form. All right, I hope that helps looking at our undoing our distributive property with factoring.